Hi everybody, Ryan Kroth here at Precision Unit Performance in Chicago, Illinois, speaking on behalf of our bioacademics education program. Today we'll be discussing planes, axes, and motions. So kind of a review, but I think a very important review so that we know how to position, speak to the industry, speak to other exercise professionals, health professionals, what have you, all those people that we refer our clients to if we feel we need to, and or if we receive referrals as well from the medical profession. So we'll start with the cardinal planes. So what I mean by the cardinal planes are kind of these rules of identifying where these limbs move in space, right? So the three cardinal planes that we generally categorize these motions in are frontal plane, sagittal plane, and transverse plane, right? So the frontal plane is if I took our skeleton here and chopped him in half, so he has a front half and a back half. Sagittal plane would be if I took my axe and sliced him in half this way. You have a left half and a right half. And then transverse plane, kind of simple, right? It's kind of using what this guy's base is all the way down through, all right? And we're basically just chopping this guy into top or bottom halves, okay? So frontal plane, sagittal plane, transverse plane. So identifying the axes with these planes, so going back to our first one, which is our frontal plane, if I was to take and chop him in half, right, that means I have to have an axis that spins in the sagittal plane. And we'll get the motions here in a second, that will better help see what I'm talking about. So then if I flip to sagittal plane, I know I'm chopping them in right and left halves, so then I have to have a perpendicular axis to that plane. Therefore, it is a frontal plane axis. And then as a transverse plane is probably the easiest ones, right? We're chopping them in halves, top and bottom halves. So I kind of see this stem, this rod going through him just to hold him up, right? And I'm just this longitudinal axis, right? Axis that I'm spinning around, okay? All right. So when we talk about motions, right, with these planes, we first started with the frontal plane, right? So we said we had a frontal plane motion, a sagittal plane axis. So examples of that would be your shoulder, ab, and adduction, trunk, lateral flexion, capital on cervical, lateral flexion, and then hip, ab, and adduction. Sagittal plane axis, frontal plane motion. So let's flip that. Now we talked about our sagittal plane. So what are some sagittal planes? Well, starting with the shoulder again, I've got sagittal plane flexion and extension. I've got capital on cervical flexion, extension. I've got trunk flexion, extension, right? So everything's moving in the sagittal plane, so it has to have a frontal plane axis. Okay, then moving down, obviously I've got hip extension flexion, knee extension flexion, ankle plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, which can also obviously be called extension, right, of that joint. And then transverse plane, again, I'm cutting this guy in top and bottom halves. I've got my axis going right through the middle here. So with this one, I could call, starting with the shoulder again, internal and external rotation. Okay, I've got trunk rotation to the left or trunk rotation to the right, capital rotation to the left, rotation to the right. I've got hip internal rotation and external rotation. Okay, so just want to go over those, kind of set the premise for reviewing these cardinal planes, axes, motions, so that when we take our clients out there, and or receive referrals or need to refer to a health professional, we can kind of talk the language a little bit better. Thank you for watching this video. If you want any other information on bioacademics, please visit our website, www.bioacademics.com, and or watch more videos on our YouTube page, Bioacademics.